Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Mizu here. In today's video, I wanted to give you guys my quick thoughts about the Diablo 4 Early Access Beta. I've been on the fence so far about whether or not I should pre-order this game, and honestly, after playing these past couple days, I could say is that I will buy Diablo 4. I'm not sure whether or not I want the $70 pack or the $90 pack because it has a 4-day head start, but for the most part, I can decide that on later. But overall, my experience with Diablo 4 has been a positive one. It's been a while since I last played a Diablo game. Been many years since I played Diablo 2, Diablo 3. Many years has passed in between then, played tons of other games, other ARPGs, which my most recent one being Lost Ark. And after trying out Diablo 4 over the past couple days, I can honestly say that the team did a phenomenal job at bringing me back into the world of Diablo. It's been a long time since I played a Diablo game, and I forgot how dark and gritty and the atmosphere of Diablo is. And it's really nice after getting through the queue, all the errors, as initial beta pain point problems. After all that was done, I created my character, got in. After watching that phenomenal cutscene, went into the story of Diablo and started my adventure there. I decided to play a sorcerer, and as I continued to explore and adventure around the map, I really appreciate the immersiveness. The storytelling was really good. I'm invested in it. The voice acting for NPCs was added. I was surprised by that. Many other games just skip voice acting on NPCs besides the main ones. Even these random NPCs have voice acting, which was a nice feature. I like the color palette that the art team has chosen and the art direction and the style that they chosen for the world of Diablo 4. The music is pretty good as well. And all these things together really add towards the immersiveness. And on top of it, also is an added feature is that I have an ultra wide monitor, so I get a little bit more screen space on the sides, on the left and right, so it adds towards the immersion as well. So it really adds towards the world of Diablo. I really enjoyed it. I got to relive that sense of exploration and adventure as I tried to experiment with different builds, going through the dungeons, and I felt that everything was pretty much straightforward, simple, as I expected for a Diablo game, and it really eases you in towards the Diablo world, especially if you're a first time player. For myself, I decided to play on World Tier 2. I thought the difficulty level was appropriate for what it was. For myself personally, I probably would have gone to the next tier if they offered it, but for a player that's casual and wanted a higher difficulty, or a player returning from ARPGs that haven't played the genre in a while, but still wanted a more harder aspect towards the game, I think World Tier 2 difficulty setting is appropriate. For myself, I played Sorcerer, and my guess is in most games, Sorcerer or Sorceress classes are pretty much busted. And for the most part, I had a pretty easy time clearing through the content on World Tier 2 as my Sorcerer. Even though it was more on the easy side, I still had fun playing through the game. I enjoyed testing out different builds, trying different stuff out. And I'm kind of interested to see what else this has to offer. I know there's also the Paragon system that's going to be unlocked once the full game is unlocked, so we're going to be able to see what that's like. And that doesn't mean that because my sword felt busted, it wasn't fun. I did have an enjoyable time playing my sword. For combat ARPG wise, I still think Lost Ark is still one of the best for me in terms of combat, but it's still too early to say for Diablo 4, seeing how we don't have the Paragon system yet into the game. There's also more affixes that I could get that could totally change my build as well. So we're gonna have to wait and see once the game actually comes out and we get to experience all these features. Although I just listed a bunch of positives for the game, there are some things that I'm concerned about with the game as well, and things that I would like to see changed. For example, one of the things that I noticed right away was the customization for the game was quite simple and rather low in some aspects. I just came from Lost Ark where the customization seems a lot more in-depth than Diablo 4, and also the game that I played before that was Black Desert Online, which had insane amount of customization. They had facial sliders, they had body size sliders, they had hair sliders so you can control the hair, the curl length, stuff like that gets pretty in depth. And for me, customization is actually pretty enjoyable. For Diablo 4, it was more on the low side. It's super simple. I wish there was a couple more hairstyles, a couple more facial structures that I could have chose from. I totally understand they can't open the entire color wheel palette because certain colors just don't mesh into the world or the aesthetic of Diablo. I know they have plans to monetize cosmetics only, so maybe it's locked behind there, but I feel like there could have been a little bit more for you in order to customize in the beginning for new players. Another thing I noticed while playing the game was that a lot of the dungeons in Act 1, The key mechanic just kind of felt the same, where I had to collect 2 items in order to open the door in order to fight the boss. If this is the same throughout the entire time for every single act, I would say it's too redundant, but this is kind of more wait and see thing in order to see what the game's like once we get additional acts. I totally understand the simplicity of it. They want to repeat it a couple times so players that are new and casual and new to the genre will kind of understand, so they get the feel for the mechanics of a dungeon and what it's like for their very first time. So sometimes they need to run through it a couple of times in order to get that repetition. For veterans, this is redundant. We can see that it's redundant right away, but hopefully some of this changes on later on into the game. Another concern that I have with the game is respeccing and gold costs. Right now it's extremely cheap in order to respec. It only costs a couple thousand gold at level 25, and that's understandable, it's the early game. However, from a video that I saw a couple months ago was that respeccing is going to be extremely expensive in the late game, and that you're better off trying to create a new character to test out a build. And for me, this poses a question in my mind every time I always see a build that I may be interested in, is saying, hey, is it worth it for me in order to create a new character just to potentially to find out that I don't like the build and kind of feel like I just wasted a bunch of time playing the game, And that's just how I personally feel about respeccing. I know some players are okay with it and they're for the system, but we're just going to have to see how it plays out. Another thing that I would like to see as well is some changes to the world boss. So the first world boss was pretty cool, it was Ashava. And one thing that I would like to see change with world bosses is that as we continue through later content, as we continue to encounter more world bosses, I would like to see the world boss patterns change. What I was expecting for the Ashava's boss fight when I got to 75% HP, 50% or 25% was additional movesets or different phases that the boss would start to do. So the boss pretty much had the same attack patterns, and I'm okay with that since it was just Act 1. But hopefully once the game actually releases and as players get towards the endgame content, world bosses become a little bit more complex and they have more phases as we reach certain HP thresholds. I think that would make things a little bit more interesting for the world boss system, but we're going to have to wait and see. Besides some of the concerns that I have with this game, there were some technical issues as well. I had some black screens, some crashes. There was also lots of stuttering that I experienced throughout the game. I have a 3070 and a 5900X that I'm running for my hardware for my computer, and I feel like with those specs I should not be experiencing stuttering. I tried to turn on the graphics, I was still stuttering, so I'm just assuming it's just the pain points of beta where they're stress testing their servers and they're still working on things. But hopefully by the next beta they fix all these issues, and definitely by the release of the game they should have fixed these issues. But overall I think the game is pretty solid. I'm looking forward to what's coming, because we just only got a taste for it. We've only experienced Act 1 up to level 25. There's tons more for the acts, there's lots of systems to be added for the game, and I'm just hoping that the endgame loop is extremely fun. If you're still on the fence about trying out this game, I highly recommend that you try out the open beta, which happens on March 24th, which is in a couple days actually. And hopefully once you try it out, maybe you might make a purchase, maybe you might not. But if you're still on the fence even after that, I highly recommend that you just wait after the first week after the game releases and take a wait and see approach. Let people play through the game, see what their thoughts about the end game is like, and you can make a judgment for yourself whether or not it's worth your time and money in order to play through the game. For myself, I'm probably going to pick it up, I'm probably going to have fun playing through the game, but depending on Diablo 4's endgame loop, I'm hoping it's really fun so I stick around for quite some time. But that's pretty much it for me. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time in another video. Peace.